Okay guys, I am Akio Mizaki, and in this occasion I'm going to explain to you two topics. Yeah, the first topic is the origin of language, and the second topic is language and thought. And so let's start to the first topic is the origin of language. Yeah. The origin of language. All religions and mythologies contain stories originating from languages. Yeah, the theories about the divine origin. The theories about the divine origin, language as a human invention, and development of evolution have all been put forward. Yeah, the story of linguistics show that the spoken language of the type that exists today has existed for at least tens of thousands of years, but the written record described earlier is only nearly 6,000 years old. Yeah, despite the difficulty of finding scientific evidence, speculation about the origin of language has provided valuable insight into the nature and development of language, which prompted the linguist Denmark Otto Jespersen to state that linguistic science cannot hold forever to ask about where and about when to where from linguistic evolution. A brief look at some of these speculative ideas will reveal this point. Yeah. The first idea is divine gift. So language is language origin from divine gift. Yeah. According to Judeo-Christian belief, one God gave Adam the power to name all things. Yeah, similar beliefs are found throughout the world. According to Egyptians, the creator of the speech was the god of thought, Thoth. Yeah. And the Babylonians believed that the language giver was the god of Nabu, or Nabu. Yeah. Plato also argues that in ancient times, a legislator gave true and natural names to all, and these words encode an essence of their meaning. Confidence in the origin of the divine language is related to the supernatural attributes that have been linked to the spoken words. In many religions, only special language can be used in prayers and rituals, such as Latin in Catholic Church for centuries. Yeah. Although myths, customs, and superstitions do not tell us much about the origin of language, they tell us about the importance ascribed to language. There is no way to prove or refute the origin of the divine language, just as one cannot scientifically argue for or oppose the existence of the gods, something like that. Yeah, it's all about the divine gift. Yeah. And next is the origin of language by the first language. For thousands of years, scientific experiments have reportedly been designed to verify certain theories of the first language. Egyptian Parahops or Fir'aun, shall we say, Fir'aun, sought to determine the most primitive language by selecting two babies in a mountain hut, to be cared for by a mute servant, in the belief that their first word would be in the original language. But they do not. History is full of similar stories, but as we saw in the introduction, all experiments in children are very cruel and completely worthless. It's not worth it. Yeah, almost all theories of language origin however ridiculous and superstitious, contain the implicit belief that all languages originated from a single source. Theories of the origin of monogenetic languages. Yeah, it's all about the first language, the origin of language as the first language. Yeah, and second, the idea is the language origin from human in does the language origin from human invention or the cries of nature. Yeah. The idea that earliest forms of language were imitation or echoes were proposed until the 20th century. The parallel view states that language initially consisted of emotional ejaculation from pain, fear, surprise, pleasure, anger, and so on. The French philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau, I don't know how to say this, proposed that the earliest manifestation of language was the cry of nature. Another hypothesis states that language arises from grunts of male and female rhythm as an expressive need, as an expressive need rather than a communicative need. Language most likely involved with the human species. Yeah. Evolutionary biologists and neuroscientists support this view and the view that from the beginning human animals were genetically equipped to study language. Yeah, that's all about the ideas of the origin of languages. And then the next topic is about language and thought. Yeah, and this explanation leads to the proof. Yeah, to the proof of the theory of Sapir-Whorf. Yeah, language will that he stated that language will influence the way we think or see the world around us. Yeah. The strongest form of the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis is called linguistic determinism. Determinism. Yeah. In this view, language acts like a filter to reality. What's most famous in supporting linguistic determinism is that the Hopi Indians do not regard time in the same way as speakers of European language because Hopi language does not make grammatical differences. Yeah. A weaker form of the hypothesis is linguistic relativism, yeah, which says that different languages encode different categories, and therefore different language speakers think about the world in different ways. For example, language breaks up the color spectrum at different points. In Navajo, blue and green are one word. Russian has different words for dark blue and light blue, whereas in English we need to use additional words, dark and light, to express differences. Yeah. The Zuni Indian language does not distinguish between yellow and orange. Yeah. The language show the linguistic differences in lexicon, and the grammar is certain. Yeah. The question is to what extent, if any, such differences determine or influence the thought and perception of the speaker. The Sapir-Whorf hypothesis is controversial, yeah, but it is clear that the strong form of this hypothesis is wrong. People thought that perception are not determined by their words and language structure. Many specific claims of linguistic determinism have been proven wrong. For example, the Hopi language might not have words and ending words for certain tenses, but the language has other expressions for time, including words for days of the week, parts of days, yesterday and tomorrow, phases of the moon, seasons, etc. The Hopi people use various types of cylinders and various devices to keep time based on the sundial. Yeah. Obviously, they have a sophisticated concept of time, even though there is no tense system in the language. Anthropologists have shown that the Inuit has no word for snow. In English, about a dozen, including hell, blizzard, mud, and busyness. But even if that happens, this will not show that language conditions the Inuit expression of the world, but that experience with a certain word creates a need for certain words. Yeah. The studies show that our perception and thought are not determined by the words or the final words of our language. But what about the linguistic structure that we usually use? Could this be a strong determinant? Yeah. In a recent study, psychologist Susan Goldin Meadow and colleagues yeah, asked whether the order of words from a particular language affected the way the speaker described and even non-verbally, either by movement or by picture. Yeah. Their results show that all speakers, regardless of their language, use the same order in non-verbal tasks. The dominant movement sequence is actor, action, and object. So the movement sequence is actor, and then action, and then object. Yeah. And the same results are found in the task of ordering images. Yeah. Similar results have been observed between English and Greek speakers. These languages differ in how the verb codes the motions. When describing movements, English speakers will generally use verbs that focus on ways of motion, such as sliding, skipping, and walking. Yeah. Greek speakers, on the other hand, use verbs that focus on direction of movement, yeah, as in approach and ascending. In our understanding, the world, in our understanding of the world, we certainly do not depend on whatever language we speak, yeah, as Warp Sapir suggested. However, we might ask whether the language we use affects our cognition. And then, actually, it is still too early to arrive at definite conclusion. The result of this study and similar studies seem to support a weak version of linguistic relativism. Yeah, the version of linguistic relativism. Yeah, this study support this version. Persons as Orwell with regard to how language can be used for social control, he is more carefully with respect to the relationship between language and thought. Yeah. He was carefully to qualify his understanding with the phrase, at least as far as the mind relies on words. Current research shows that language does not determine how we think and understand the world. Like that. So, but the language and thought, we want to prove the theory of Sapir-Whorf that language determine in how we think and understand the world. Yeah, it appears that this theory is still weak. Yeah, still weak. By any studies that that present in this explanation, we can get the conclusion that the theories of Sapir-Whorf that language determine how we think and understand the world is still weak. Yeah, still weak. So guys, that's all my explanation about the origin of language and language of thought. I hope you get I hope you got the point. Yeah, you got the point, and you can understand what we explained. We have explained, and then thank you for your kind attention, and we are sorry for any mistake that we and maybe we have done something like that. uh, I hope I hope you guys understand, and please give us question if you get something need to ask about this materials. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So, we are from group 7. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.